Just get straight to it, bro.
Let's do it.
What's your name?
My name, Esteban Alejandro de la Peña, nickname Esti.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Yeah.
How's your day today?
Today was it was good.
Good.
Hung out with some people, talked a little bit, and that's about it. And then now here I am.
So we'll just get straight into the questions.
Let's do it.
Can you just tell me a little bit about your childhood?
My childhood, uh, born and raised Los Angeles, California. Born in Redondo Beach. I grew up in Wilmington, California. My mom, my dad, both. That's where I kind of grew up. And then my mom, at a very young age, she went to San Pedro. Uh, but other than that, like very, very family orientated. On my dad's side, that's the Mexican side. Obviously, huge family, but everyone's family. Any friend I brought over there or anything like that, my grandparents didn't care that you were a De La Peña.
Yeah.
If you came there and you were willing to like hang out with us, be positive, just sit there and just chop it up with us, you became part of the family. Mom's side, a lot smaller. That's my African American side. Very small, but obviously very close knitted. Pretty much females on that side. I think like me, my older brother, maybe a cousin, and an uncle. That was two uncles. That was like all the males we had over there, over in Carson, California. But always very supportive. I remember the trippiest thing about growing up is the elementary school they thought of. They sent me to San Pedro. Not San Pedro, I mean, what is it called? Not San Pedro. It was in San Pedro. It was, what was my elementary school? South Shores.
South Shore.
Freaking South Shores over in Rancho Palos Verdes, actually, which is San Pedro pretty much. And it was a performing arts elementary school. So I don't know how they thought that was like the right school to go to. Not saying it was bad, but performing arts. And it wasn't until about second grade where I found acting. Like that's when I acted my first time. And that was my childhood. We did plays from third grade to fifth grade. Like the second half of the year was always just focused on the play we're doing. There's always a musical, and we performed it at Dominguez Hills University, and we did shows over there. And that's when I was first introduced. And like that was, I still have like Garrett Brill is one of my best friends I've known since first grade at that school, and he's to this day my best friend. So my childhood was very different.
What were your dreams as a child?
I think at first I like wanted to be a football player. I had like those same old dreams, but it wasn't until like I think about third grade is when I actually performed on stage at Dominguez Hills, and it just fit. It fit too good. That's what I wanted to be, and it still sits in me to this day.
So you wanted to be an actor as a child.
Yeah, and that didn't go away.
Can you tell me about your relationship with your dad and how that felt?
Relationship with my dad. My dad has always been a great man. Um, that's the Mexican side of my family. He accidentally became a police officer. Yeah, I know that's a weird thing to say, but like he had a friend who asked him to go with him just because he was nervous, but his friend wanted to be a cop. He didn't, but he just has that installed in him. Like me and my dad, growing up, he was never hard on me, but like he was trying to guide me the right way. He taught me that how much better it was to be and how much cooler it was to be a gentleman than a player.
Yeah.
That blew my mind. I didn't know what he was doing till like now. Now me and him are like best friends,
Yeah.
best friends. But growing up, like he was trying to install that in me, and it wasn't until now I'm like how grateful I was for that.
How'd your dad make you feel in general?
All the way in general, especially being a police officer, but he'd be around the schools all the time. He was never ashamed. But he was never like sitting there looking down at anyone. He was I remember he patrolled around San Pedro High when I was at San Pedro High, and he'd like some of my best friends. He'd like catch them smoking, But his thing was he wasn't trying to meet a quota or anything like that. He'd take whatever we had, he'd step on the bong or whatever. He's like, and he'd drive him back to school. Like, go to class. Like, just go to freaking class. And like, as scary as he looked, everyone respected him but liked him because he wasn't trying to just write tickets. So he met his quota. He didn't give a fuck about a quota. He cared about like catching kids doing stupid shit, and he's like rather put them back at school. Like, this is your way. Like, this is how you get out. Like, you need to just stay here. Just like take it in and use this. And yeah.
What about your relationship with your mom?
My mom's. My mom. It's funny because now I understand my poor dad like through that divorce. Like, I never knew why they divorced. I could never see them honestly together. But it wasn't the older I got, I kind of saw my mom, and my mom was just an independent woman in every sense of the word. Like, she can't rely on it. Like, I think she's had one boyfriend since my dad, and that was before I was an infant when they got divorced. So she has that strongness about her. But one of the best things, like me and my mom became like best friends right when I was about to go into high school. She sat me down, and she's like, "Look, this is the time when you're about to start finding out how to become a man." Yeah. She's like, "I hope your dad, steps in on that part." She's like, "I'm a woman. I can't." She's like, "But I will give you any advice if you ask me anything." I was okay. And then I just remember she's like, "I'll give you one piece of advice right off the bat." And I was like, "Okay." And she's like, "Okay, I don't think you should be in a relationship in high school." And me looking at my mom like, "You're supposed to be a woman?" I was like looking at her like, "Okay." And she's like, "No." She's like, I think this is the time where like, your friends, you've had them since elementary school, junior high. This is where you connect with them and you find your places." She's like, because senior year comes, you all go in different directions. And she's like, "So I don't think a girlfriend," she's like, "It's not saying you're not allowed." She's like, "You can." She's like, "I think you shouldn't." And she's like, "I think you should just have fun." I'm looking at her like, "Okay, what do you mean by that?" And she's like, "But you must be honest." And I was like, she's like, "No, you got to be honest." She's like, you go to these girls and like you tell them like, "I'm not looking for a relationship or anything like that," and it's their decision. And since that, I remember that discussion, me and her, like, would just talk. We could talk about, like, I'd be going through with girls, like, "Why, mom, like, these girls keep calling me a player. They keep, like, blah, blah, blah." And she's like, "Well, did you tell them the truth?" I was like, "No, I swear to God. I told them, like, the exact truth." And she's like, "Oh, they're stupid." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Well, they had that in their mind, like, I'll change his mind." And I was like, "I didn't know that." So, like, my mom has always been, like, my right-hand man. She's guided me through relationships, everything, ever since high school, because she made that. She told me like my dad doesn't teach me how to be a man, but like she wanted to teach me how to be like a gentleman in a sense.
How'd that relationship with your mom feel?
It felt great. It was like funny because like once I started seeing the like what she was saying was true, and it was like real easy to do, but like I was still having fun. I was still having a blast. Like, and that's like she because obviously she went through it. So she was like trying to tell me like this is the time where you need to have fun. And the fact that it took years later, I realized how important her advice has been. Our connection's even way stronger. But even like going through all this, like I knew I could always count on her. She never sat there and scolded me for like anything stupid, which I did most of those. But me and her just connected throughout the years.
What do you say you learned from both your parents?
From both my parents now, well, my dad, that's the man I'm striving to be. And he always, he hates when I say that. And he's like, "I already think you're past that." I'm like, "Well, Pops, I think you say that because the love you have for me." I was like, "I'm not where you're at yet." And I'm not talking about money or anything like superficial. It's not possessions. It's what he did. I remember being at his retirement party, and he had older heads in the police department, like way above him. And I remember this one guy came, and he's been there for freaking ever, and he's well known. But he started talking about my dad, and he's like, at the end of his speech, he's like, "I'm trying to be like Officer Delapine." And I'm like, this guy holds the title way above him. But when he pointed at my dad, he's like, I'm striving to be like that man. That's how that's how I see it to this day. It's like my pops is exactly what I hope to be. And with my mom, I mean, I guess it's a sense of like, kind of, I want to like find the girl like her. My mom's way too strong, so she's like she only had one boyfriend since my dad. And I don't know how many years that is. It's like I do want to. I like her. I like her strength. I don't know if I can handle like that fully on, but no, she. I do see my mom, and I see like I do hold this bar when it comes to like if I'm getting in a serious relationship to my mom's standards, because the fact that she never she never thought less or did less than what she knew what she deserved, and that's why she's single to this day. And I'm like, that's the woman. I want a woman like that that knows their fucking worth, and they will do it even if they have to die alone. They don't care. They won't just settle like, oh, I guess if he's interested in me, like, you know.
Can you tell me about your first love and how that felt?
First love, goodness. Oh man, like first real love.
For whatever you can identify.
That's what I'm saying. It's like
it doesn't have to be a person. It can be a thing. It can be
okay.
It can be anything. It can be
Okay.
relative. It can be whatever.
I mean, like
Whatever you
first.
can associate with first love.
First love. I'm trying to think. The first thing. Honestly, it had to be acting. At that young of age, like girls at that age, they were around. Like I was very aware of them. I liked them, but something with acting. To me, acting was like it was like the best relationship and the worst at the same time. It's just like before because when you go to act, it's like to me it was like approaching a date. It's like, all right, am I gonna fuck this up? Like, am I gonna end up being happy at the end? And I realized, but every acting experience was like a new date to me. And so that has to be for sure my first love because I treated I could do the same like show the day before. The following day, it was like I'm on a first date for the freaking like 100th time, but it's like I loved it. Because to me, it's like, okay, I did like get a kiss from my date the day before when there was that play I did. And like the second day, I was like, I'm gonna try to get a little further. Like that, so I would do a little extra, doing the same like scenes and dialogue and everything, but I would do something different because I wanted the reaction from the like the guests that were there, the crowd. Like I wanted them, and they could have loved me the night before. I was like, no, I'm gonna make sure they love me even harder than that. And I did that at such a young age. I didn't know what girls were in like real relationships, but that was the realest relationship I was in for a minute.
Nice.
Yeah.
So can you tell me about your first loss or heartbreak?
First loss or heartbreak. That one's hard. Um, I mean, I guess okay. Well, first heartbreak I would say would be my first relationship, but I didn't want to be in a relationship all through high school. My first relationship was the exact year after high school, and I ended up dating a girl, gorgeous girl, but poor girl, been in like the worst, most toxic relationships, and I didn't know relationships, and she taught me these toxic things because that's what all she knew from the guy she messed with, and I had no knowledge of it, and I just remember it was the most toxic relationship I've ever been in. So like to avoid relationships all through high school, and then to go to like the worst thing, but it was a learning experience. But I remember the heartbreak. I think the biggest heartbreak was I think oh sorry yeah man all right the first heartbreak would be while I was dating her. We already been together for like a year and a half, and then she ended up pregnant. And yeah, I know a lot of people don't know this. She ended up pregnant, and she came to me and she told me she's like, okay, what do you want to do? I was like, well, the way I was raised, like we keep it. Like if you're grown enough to make the baby, you're grown enough to keep it. I was like, but also I was raised it's the woman's body. And back then, because that was like 2006, 2007, back then when like abortions were like, they went way later than they should have. Like they allowed you to keep the baby way later. And I remember she was undecided, and I never forced any decision for her to do. But I remember when she finally decided, it was like the like last time period they could, and I remember taking her there. They had to put her under, and I remember I didn't want to ask this question to the nurses, but I was like, what do you guys do? And I remember them telling me, well, one, they should have never told me, but they told me the sex because they knew it at that time. That's when it was later. And I remember them telling me, well, first thing they do is they put the woman under, they put a needle directly into the stomach, directed into the heart, and they stop the heart. And then they take the baby out of the vagina piece by piece. And I remember hearing that, and I wanted to fucking hit the woman. But I just walked away, and that was like the biggest heartbreak I had. You know, I had lost lives, and those are huge, but like to go through all that, and then to think like I'm getting told all this, and the girl at the time I was in love with was laying there about to go through this. That was probably the biggest heartache first heartache for sure.
How'd you deal with it?
Not well. I mean, I didn't attack her at all, but like we kind of felt like the relationship was coming to an end. So it was actually the week of my 21st birthday. She left to Florida, and we broke up. Well, she was in Florida. She was in Hawaii. We broke up while she was gone, and like she was gone for 2 weeks. I was turning 21 that week, and that's kind of how I handled it. Like I kind of just went crazy, especially being 21. Drank a bunch. It didn't help. It wasn't until like months later when like breaking down with it and everything like that, and then we actually communicated before she left to college, and we actually like talked, and like she was obviously felt bad, and I had to tell her like you had no choice, like it's okay type deal. And then she left to college. We like talked a couple times after that, but that was kind of it.
Who would you say first taught you what love is, and how did they teach you that love?
First thing, love. Ooh. I mean the first, it would be my grandparents on my dad's side. Um, they never like told me directly like this is love or anything like that, but the advice they give, and like they never wanted to be too fully into whatever relationship, like any of my cousins or any of us, but they would always just give those words of advice, and like you just could watch it in them, like that is relationship goals. And they never had to say like be like us. Like it was more like they were like, well, did you listen to her? Did she listen to you? Did you guys talk this? Like, they would always like say stuff that they naturally just have in them, and they would just give advice and stuff like that. But watching it alone and like just seeing like they're not just talking, they actually showed how that works, and that was like the best advice ever. And like to watch it would be, yeah, it's definitely my grandparents.
What's love to you now?
It's love to me now.
But has it always been the same? If not, what was it to what it was for you compared as who you were younger
Yeah.
to as an adult?
To now, I mean, love. Okay, to me when I was younger, it was very similar, but like it was more towards family and friends. I've always been protective, and the love I had, I needed nothing back. I didn't realize till now that's how it has to be all the way around. That's not just with your friends and family. That's how relationships should be. Because what I know now off of that, because I had that advice, I saw it and everything. I didn't know how to properly use it. I didn't realize that like if it's your significant other, that's your best friend too. So you shouldn't really separate besides anything physical. Like you should literally treat your significant other as your best friend. because it's like the best qualities ever. And it took now for me to realize that, but it was taught to me then. But I just saw it as like, this is just for friends. This is just for family. And like, okay, girl, I'm interested in is something separate, which is stupid.
Yeah.
I know that now.
Yeah, me too.
That's what I mean. It's like, it takes years.
How do those two different loves feel?
The two different loves, I think when it comes from a relationship, it just feels so much stronger because it's not normal. Like the love with family, it's not that normal. Like if you've been around the families like we've been around and been in and stuff like that, it's not normal, but I don't know, it feels like it should be normal. But then when like you have that type of relationship with like with another person, with your significant other, everyone kind of looks like, oh my God, like that's like, like they make it extreme, whether it's good or bad. They see that, but it's like it should be the same thing. The only difference is like there's a new level. And that's like more of a physical, but it's not just physical that like adds on to it with the significant other. But it's just a new level. But you should be best friends.
Can you tell me about a good day for you? Just a general good day.
General good day.
What's a good day for Esty?
A good day for Esty is literally. It doesn't matter who I talk to or what I talk about. I love a good day is when people come to me, even if it's something negative or anything like that, and I could give that piece of advice. I could help them out on that road, and me be also happy with where I'm at. When you can just look around and just like you just feel good. And then that's when you start just doing natural things that they say grown-ups do, and it feels great. Like when you're cleaning, washing dishes, but yeah, music blasting, and you're just sitting there. Like to me, it's like small things like that. Like obviously, I love when huge events or something magical happens, stuff like that. But that's not an everyday thing.
Yeah.
To me, it's happiness when like you just go about your day and you're just so positive and you feel it. It doesn't matter when people come to you with negative, news, but they come to you because they know you could help them get better.
Yeah.
And then you go through that and they're happy, like, let's take a shot, let's take a shot. Like, that's a fucking amazing day to me.
It's a good day. What about a bad day, and how do you push through that bad day?
A bad day is when it never has to do with anything like drastic. Those that's how life works, and it sucks when they happen and you deal with them as they go. To me is like when you have no control. It's when you have control of the day. And you're just letting so many negative things just fuck up your emotion. And you're sitting there and you're so upset and pissed off about shit that's from some motherfucker you don't even give a shit about. Like it could be something, but you're sitting there and you're taking it to heart and it's actually affecting you. That's a fucking worse type of day.
Yeah. How do you work your way out of that?
The way you work out of that is when you realize it and you admit it to yourself and you're like, what the fuck am I doing? Like when you get yourself out of that same level as they're at, you're like, what the fuck? This is stupid. It's like, that's how you get out of that.
What are two things or people that have shaped you, good or bad?
Two? Okay.
Two or one?
Two. I mean, to me. Okay, so for good, I mean that's a list of people. I guess I'll go out of the normal because my dad, and obviously my mom, but I'll say a person that's influenced me beyond belief would be Garrett Brill. That's my best friend I've known since first grade, and that man, good lord, he's been through the same. He was right next to me every party we've been to, every fucking fight we had, like all through high school, and he had fun. I used to go visit him at ASU all the time, and it's not like he never stopped, but he found that division of like the fun and life and how to like make it like just flow together. And like the fact the boy's the same age as me, and I look for him for advice, wisdom. He's a different character. That man's a different, and he sits there and he preaches the same crap about me. I'm like, I ain't there yet. Like that's you, Gary. And like, but that's what I love. that's that, like, to feel that from someone my same age, been through right by my side through everything, and like he's just a word of advice, but he never sits there and acts cocky. He turns it around like, no, you're my, like, I love your advice. You're my support. To me, that's why that man forever. That's family to me.
What's inspired you and why?
As of recently, I think the biggest thing that's inspired me was the whole. Well, we haven't got there yet, but my coma. Um, because I think it's more now than when it first happened because it's so hard to get back to where you're at and like putting things together and like you're not the same person. You have your head split open. You're not gonna think the same.
How long were you in a coma for?
I was in a coma for 3 days. It was a medically induced coma, but they couldn't wake me up. But since then, I don't know. It's I have a way different mindset. And it's weird because I notice I'm a lot nicer and happier. And most people that go something drastic, they get scared, they get angry, like they have everything. And I don't know that experience. Like I would never take it away from the world. I wouldn't go through it again, but I wouldn't take it away.
What has been a humbling experience for you?
Same thing. Same answer. The
Can you
coma, like
can you describe why that coma? How did that humbling process go?
the humbling process, because when it happened, you don't know anything. You don't even remember like when you wake up from it. You don't even remember those couple days, the people that came, or anything like that. I think the humbling experience is I grew up in LA. People, it was a daily thing. People getting shot, killed, stabbed, beat to death, and coming here and that happening. I remember my dad even like to him it would have made more sense if it happened in LA. And like I've been when that happened, I've been out of LA for like 7 years. So like I wasn't the same person. I went to New Mexico first, then came here to Colorado, and I never was the same person as I was in LA. And there was a reason for it. I was growing for it. But to almost lose my life, and I was at the happiest I've been and everything. It was humbling because it's like some like shit happens. Like, you have to pay attention. And it made me more humble because then I think about my past and how cocky I was. I used to fight all the time, being shot and stuff. And I thought that was like put me higher up and made me something big and bad. And I was just walking down a freaking street, and my life almost taken from me. And then I realized like how stupid it is to be proud that I didn't get killed yet. Like like there's nothing to be proud about.
Can you go on your mind and think this life event can be mental, physical, or spiritual? Tell me about a time in your life that you can relate with the word war.
Or I could bring up any time pretty much in high school. It is being in a city like high school in LA. Even if you never gang banged in your life, it didn't matter. You had some of that. You had that knowledge at least, and it was just constant. It didn't matter. You knew exactly what areas you could go, what areas you couldn't go, and if you did, you could be killed. And that's the freaking nice thing. And like to have that mindset and never gangbang. So you can't even say that the reason is because I'm from this gang. It's just the reason is I just know the area and I know me. That was worth it like a motherfucker. I lost so many friends last you were there in high school. That was war.
Going through that experience in high school and just growing up, how did that feel?
It felt normal. And the sad part, it didn't. It took the whole coma thing, and when I got out, I went to a therapist, and I remember one session because he always just like let me. He was asking about my past, and then he started talking about high school, and I started telling these stories. I'm telling him, and I just see him, and he looks so freaking scared. I'm like, what? And he's like, I don't think that you getting jumped here caused the trauma. And I was like, what? And he's like, no, I think you've had trauma in your life for years.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. And so I called my dad, ex-LAPD officer and everything. I called him and talked to him. I was like, hey, remember? I was like naming all the things. And he just said it all. He's like, yeah. And I was like, Dad, that's not okay. And he's like, what? That's just LA. I was like, but no, my therapist has told me like that's not okay. How calmly we say it and we're so used to it. That's how it was during war. That's why I call that warfare. It took me moving out. So I realized like I freaking LA is warfare. If you live there, I don't care. You could be in the richest part because I had some of the richest friends. But I don't know. Everyone kind of just goes everywhere. They try everything. They experiment. They explore, and we've all seen it.
So that war. So essentially, you end up getting a war mentality and a war mind state. How long
Mm-hmm.
did it take for you to get out of that train of thought
Me getting jumped.
out here?
Yep.
So the coma.
The coma. It took me waking from the coma. It took that many years.
Getting damn near beat to death.
Almost dead. That's what it took.
And are you grateful for that experience?
Yeah. Completely.
So same question. Go in your mind and think. This life event can be mental, physical, or spiritual. Tell me about a time that you can relate to the word peace.
It would be when my memory started coming back after the coma because I wasn't the same. I didn't understand. I don't know. I woke up a different man. Because as they say, like when you wake up from stuff like that, like a lot of people wake up angry, afraid, and I don't remember this, but people tell me the stories, just them visiting, just the biggest smile on my face, and like me not remembering people's names on top of that, they're like, you don't remember my name? I'm like, not really, but whatever. Like I thought, like I was just the most peaceful. I've been the most peaceful since that because whatever happened, I don't know. I can't tell you what happened when I was almost or dead or almost dead or anything. I don't know what I experienced. I don't know what visions I had. I don't know what I seen. But whatever the hell it was has me so much more at peace than I've ever been. Doesn't mean I don't get angry. Doesn't mean I don't have like any of those feelings, but they're not acted on like they used to be.
Can you tell me about a truly difficult time in your life and the emotions that came with it?
uh, yeah. I mean, I guess we were talking about the coma,
Yeah, it
but
could be the same thing again.
I mean, yeah.
So how'd you get through it?
Well, no, okay. So to go from there, as I was released, I was like super happy, but I think it wasn't until I was in the hospital for 3 weeks, and I was released. My dad came down that last week. He wanted to take me home to heal a little more with family, friends, and everything. So I did that, and I just remember. I was so happy till I went back home. And I don't know what it was about being back home because it's been a minute, especially to live. Like I wasn't there just for a week to visit. I was like, they wanted me to stay as long as it took, and for whatever reason, I don't know, I started feeling guilt. And the reason why the guilt came from, I remember it was the first week back in California. I got a phone call early in the morning from one of my coworkers here in Denver. And I looked, I was like, oh, they're probably just checking on me. So I went back to sleep, and then I got one from another coworker just minutes after. I was like, what the fuck's going on? And I answered, and I got the phone call that two of our coworkers who were a couple, and actually one of the girls, her name was Nicole. A guy's name, his name was Britton, and they're both friends. Nicole was in California when she found out about my whole coma thing, and she was still there when I got back, and she was setting up so we could meet. She's like, I want to see you. I'm so sorry everything happened. I'm so glad you're okay. And then Britton came down, and he actually came down to surprise her, and they drove back, and they got in an accident and both died. And I remember waking up to that phone call, hearing that, and for some reason I had this guilt. And I remember my same year, one of my friends from college, he passed away too. And for some reason, like it happened in the same year of me almost dying, I felt this guilt, like they should be here, I should be gone. And I just remember that activity. And it plagued on me. I remember that's what, like, anytime I got choked up, it was never that I almost died. I was more hurt and angry that I stayed and three left.
So how do you work through that?
The way I worked that, when I first went down, I went back to California. It was actually my grandpa's 90th birthday. And it's like he could. I never told him anything, but he could just tell. It's my grandpa on my dad's side. He's the Don. He is like, that is the Don right there. And I remember him. He could just tell without me even having to say anything. And I remember him saying these words. He was like, God does not make mistakes. And this without him even knowing how I was feeling. I never told family till later, but he looked me dead in my eyes, and I remember him saying, he's like, God doesn't make mistakes. He's like, whatever is going on, he's like, you're back here for a reason. And he's like, you better do that reason. He's like, you better be here for that. He's like, you better put everything in it. He's like, God brought you back. He's like, you better go head on it. He's like, there's no excuses. You're back. You got a second try. And I remember him saying shit like that. I'm just like, holy fuck. And it's like, that's when he didn't know about that. And me and my dad talked about it. And my dad's like, well, why do you think you shouldn't feel guilt? He's like, you have people, people pass when it's time for them to pass. He's like, it's not time. So stop feeling guilty. And yeah, that's how I end up taking it.
Can you tell me about a truly joyous moment in your life and how that felt?
Truly joyous moment in my life. Um, I would go with, okay. I remember. So me and my son's mom, we split up and everything like that, and she kept her distance, and we would talk through to each other through my dad and my stepmom. And I remember I was back in New Mexico. I remember finally decided. I was like, my buddy invited me to come to Denver. He's like, do you want to come? I'm like, I'm a city boy. I was like, yeah, I need to get to New Mexico. I was just sitting there, just depressed as shit. And I remember finally being back here, and I remember getting that phone call from her. I think it was like the same week I was here. And she was just nervous to talk to me till I was like out of state. But we talked everything out, and my son's right there, and she puts him on the phone and shit. I remember that was one of the most joyous moments. Me and her finally realized we're meant to be friends. We had our son on purpose, but it was because our son was meant to be here. It wasn't meant for us to be together. And I remember that moment, and I remember how joyous it was because I had never even seen my son to that point, and he was already 2. Yeah.
What keeps you up at night?
I'm an insomniac. I keep myself up at night. Like, honestly, like, but when I get to that point, it gets like later in the night, and most people get like drowsy and stuff. I get like, like people like start nodding and stuff. I get creative. Like something just sparks, and I just start writing shit down. Like the shit that comes out of my mouth, the lyrics, the movie ideas, everything just starts flowing out of me. And like, yeah, if I have to work in the morning, I hate myself, but like, I'm not gonna shut it up and go to sleep. That's what keeps me up at night. I just freaking go at it.
What keeps you going every day?
Keeps me going every day. Generally, just honestly, just the people I love on this earth.
Imagine you're in the hospital today with only hours to live. What would be your regrets?
Not one of my regrets would be to not. It's a hard one because it would be my son, to not be there for him to grow up. But like, I don't think it just goes as that specific. I think it's just literally not being here to protect, care, and influence. Like family, friends, it doesn't matter. It could be strangers. To me, that's what gets me going. Like, I would hate because we're not where we should be.
Yeah.
And to not at least help more to make sure we get there. I think that would be the biggest regret.
So you're gonna make it. You're alive and well. Do you feel that you can change or make amends with that regret?
Obviously. Hell yeah, I can. I plan to.
You tell me what your dreams were as a kid. What are your dreams now?
Same.
To be an actor?
Yeah. But for different reason. I want to be a known actor because I want the influence to reach people's ears. I don't give a fuck about money.
You're the author of your life, but what's your picture perfect ending?
Picture perfect ending. That I leave this earth just a little bit greater than what it was. And I mean that for my son. The fact that like he doesn't have to go with as many like evils and just sadness and stuff as much as I did. That obviously that's like you can't avoid it, but that it just makes it a little easier. Not just for my son, for just any of the youth, anyone behind me, anyone that I leave. Like I just hope this earth is just a little bit easier, a little more enjoyable, and I had a reason for that. There it is.
There it
That's
is.
brother.
What was it?
That was fucking bomb. I enjoyed that a lot.